千里之行，始于足下。A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. I would like to extend a warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we all ready ourselves for this sacred process in the Tao with one another. The title of Tao Te Ching 27 is Following Enlightenment. As always, the chapter title is composed of 3 characters. The term Following Enlightenment comes from the 10th line of this chapter. It is a title that we have to be careful with. It can be mistranslated because the first character can be misunderstood. In modern Mandarin, the first character, xi, usually means raid or surprise attack. In this ancient context, its meaning has nothing to do with that. It means to follow, to conform to, or continue on with a tradition. The second character, Ming, means clear, especially in terms of spirituality. To have spiritual clarity is to be enlightened. When we put these 2 characters together, the term Ximing points to the way Tao sages and cultivators follow the established wisdom tradition of the Tao. And that is what leads one to spiritual enlightenment. This is an important concept, and we will talk about it in great depth and detail as we do our line-by-line exploration of Tao Te Ching 27. Tao Te Ching 27. Good traveling does not leave tracks. Good speech does not seek faults. Good reckoning does not use counters. Good closure needs no bar, and yet cannot be opened. Good knot needs no rope, and yet cannot be untied. Therefore, sages often save others, and so do not abandon anyone. They often save things, and so do not abandon anything. This is called following enlightenment. Therefore, the good person is the teacher of the bad person. The bad person is the resource of the good person. Those who do not value their teachers and do not love their resources, although intelligent, they are greatly confused. This is called essential wonder. So as we can see, this chapter contains 16 lines. They are expressed in an ancient way that requires some explanation to unravel and make clear. So first, let's take a look at where the repeating characters are so we can discern the sectional divisions in this ancient text. The first repetition, I think, is very easy to identify because it is the first character of line 1 repeating itself all the way down to line 5. And as you look at it now, from line 1 to line 5, I think it will be obvious. But let me go ahead and highlight them in red. This character means good, 善. It is translated as such in the English rendition to the right. So every sentence from line 1 to line 5 on the English side starts with the word good. Now, there's no further repetition of that first character in that first position beyond line 5. So looking at this, we can easily tell lines 1 to 5 form the first section, like so. The next thing I want to point out for your attention is that the third character in each line is repeated from 1 to 5, except line 3. Line 3 breaks from the pattern, so let me highlight all of those as well. So the character repeated 4 times is 无. It is the same 无as in 无为, and it means not. So you can see the corresponding translation in English to the right. Every sentence contains not. What about line 3? The third character in line 3, it doesn't look like the other 4 characters, but it is a synonym. It is 不, also means not. Along with 无, it is one of the most often used characters in everyday speaking and writing. And again, this repeating pattern is not appearing below line 5, and that further reinforces lines 1 to 5 is the first section. There is one more thing to note, and that is lines 4 and 5 are longer than the other lines, and they have a matching structure as well, corresponding with each other. They have 3 characters repeating that are the same between those 2 lines, as you can see. Below line 5, line 6 starts a new section. It is a description of Tao sages written in a poetic structure. As you scan further down, I think you can see that line 7 down to line 10, they're all 4 characters each. There's a lot of repeating patterns here. It's a more intricate type of repetition. Let me highlight them so we can see more clearly. So in the highlighted text below line 5, you can see how the first 3 characters are the same as the 3 characters in line 8. They're in a different position due to the grammatical structure, but they are the same characters. And the first 3 characters of line 7 are exactly the same as the first 3 characters of line 9. Now, there's more repetitions in the sense that line 6 and line 7 are about people. So they end in the same character, 人, which is person, persons, plural, or people. And this is followed by lines 8 and 9, which are about things. So they end in the same character, 物. So this repetition is interweaved with the first two characters repeating another two characters in lines 7 and 9. And we get to line 10, which is the conclusion about the sages. And line 10 marks the end of the section describing the sages. Looking beyond this point, we can see even more repeating characters below. Perhaps below line 10, the easiest repetition to see is the first character in 12, 13, and 14. That is the character that we have seen from line 3, 不, meaning not. Let's highlight those as well. So in addition to 12, 13, and 14, there's one more in the middle of line 11. Again, the grammatical structure causes it to seem out of place. There is another recurring pattern that is also important. Let me go ahead and circle them to make them stand out. Two characters repeating 4 times. The first character there, 善. It is the same character as the first character from lines 1 to 5 with the same meaning, good. The second character there, 人, that is the same character at the end of lines 6 and 7, means the same thing, person. Put good together with person, the meaning is simple, good person. So you'll see that translation on the right, good person shows up a couple of times. Then when you put 不, which is not, in front of it, you literally have not good person, which is a bad person. So just a few more items to also note. In 11 and 12, the character, the next to last character, is the same. And if you look at lines 13 and 14, the third character is the same. We'll highlight those as well to complete our discussion of all the repetitions in this chapter. All these intricate repeating patterns just make it obvious that all these lines from 11 to 16, they belong to one section, the final section. They conclude the entire chapter. And the last two lines are the final message from Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu says, although intelligent, they are greatly confused. This is called the essential wonder. Now, Lao Tzu is referring to those who do not love and value teachers and resources. So we'll talk about those when we get to that part in the line-by-line analysis. For now, we will start at the beginning. So here's the very first thing to note. The character that begins each line, it repeats itself 5 times, 善. As I mentioned, the meaning is good. And it goes beyond that in terms of definition. San can also mean to embody excellence, to be skillful. The English word good is used in a similar way. We often say someone is, for instance, good with people, or perhaps someone is good at math, good in sports, and so on. So good is also being skillful, excelling in a particular area of life. The Tao itself is a goodness in life. It is also an excellence that one can embody. Although the great Tao encompasses everything, good or bad, we are here specifically to discuss the best path that'll take us through a good life. So our focus is going to be on the positive and, of course, avoiding the negative. And linking all of these together, the idea is that you and I can live the good life by attaining excellence, embodying excellence, and becoming naturally skillful in practicing the virtues. So in a practical sense, the Tao is also a life skill to cultivate and practice. It is not enough to know the concepts. If we don't put them into actual practice, they become empty words, devoid of meaning. I do put a special emphasis on this only because in the West, there are some who are only aware of the Tao as something to understand. They are not as aware the Tao is also something to do. And that's why you may hear them say, well, it just means path. How do you apply a path? It doesn't make any sense. What this shows is that some ideas have a more difficult time crossing the cultural barrier. In the East, all teachers and masters emphasize the importance of practical applications. You want to become skillful or get really good at the Tao. Not only is this a valid goal, it is the primary goal. Indeed, the ultimate skill in the Tao integrates a virtue so that it becomes a part of you. So in the lifelong quest to become a better version of ourselves, to be more refined, more perfected spiritually, that is the reason why we practice. With enough practice, the skill or virtue becomes second nature. And that is what turns you into a better version. It transforms you. For instance, a violent person can become a naturally peaceful person. And this can be done through the practice of calmness, of mastering the mind. An arrogant person can become a naturally humble person. And this is done through the Tao of humility. In my humble opinion, this is one of the most difficult skills to maintain. Another example, a harsh person can become a naturally compassionate person. And this can be done through being in touch with one's own natural empathy. Everyone has deep underneath an empathetic nature. We just need to bring it to the forefront. A phony person can become a naturally authentic person. This is simply allowing the real you to emerge. For many reasons, there are people who don't do that. They don't want to show their real selves. But when you work on perfecting and refining your true self, there is absolutely nothing wrong being authentic, letting that be your default mode of interaction with the world. It is comfortable because it is you. It is better because it feels good. And in a similar way, a loud and talkative person can become a naturally quiet person. What I have seen is that when a loud person finally realizes how he or she is perceived by other people, that starts them on their path of becoming naturally quiet. Lastly, an impulsive person can become a naturally thoughtful person. And what I have seen is that this is usually done through the school of hard knocks. What I mean by that is impulsive decisions, impulsive actions lead usually to bad results. Hence the hard knocks. After a while, you quote unquote get wise and start using a different approach, the thoughtful approach. And that is all for the better. So, having gone through善, let's include the next character with it. This is good traveling, referring to the journey of life. So good traveling is not about traveling physically. It is metaphorically using real life travel to make points about the life journey. Physical travel, this is something that you and I, everybody has a lot of experience with traveling through the real world in one way or another. We are actually all travel experts in real life, having done it so much. So being experienced, a traveler knows how to, number one, prepare for the trip. Pack only what is needed. Like, what should I wear? What should I bring? What is the temperature like where I'm going? Should I dress in layers? Number two, study the map, know the current location, and follow directions. For this trip that's coming up, what is the starting point? What are the stops along the way? What can I expect? Where should I turn? Number three, we know how to respond to changing conditions so that we can facilitate reaching the destination. If the road is blocked, use the detour. If a flight is canceled, book another flight. So with this experience, we have an advantage in understanding what Lao Tzu means about the life journey. The traveling metaphor tells us, number one, in life, being prepared is the recipe for success in any endeavor. That just means in the Tao, it is important for us to identify what is needed versus what we want. What we need will be the essentials, as we discussed. What we want may be desires that we can manage. This also means we have to let go of the attachments that will only slow you down. From physical travel, we know we will not carry a ton of stuff that we won't actually need. It is no different for the life journey. Number 2, always know where you are and where you are going in living your life. So, not about physical destinations anymore, but the basic idea remains the same. Never charge forth blindly. Let the Tao serve as a map and a travel guide. Let the Tao help us choose the correct path when we come to a fork in the road. Let the Tao serve as a caution so we know the hazards to avoid. And on the positive side, that we know the scenic routes, the best paths, the best sights to see. Because this journey through life, like a physical journey, is meant to be enjoyed. Number 3, things keep on changing, so we have to be watchful and perceptive. We know that in physical travel, we can come up against a sign that says construction ahead or road closure. We can also encounter changing weather that will cause us to reassess the situation, like how far away are we from shelter so we can be protected from the elements. In the same way through life, when we encounter unexpected challenges, we also need to respond accordingly, perhaps change our approach. And this means it is important in the Tao to always have that flexibility to seek a different path. Perhaps it is not just changing the approach, but also changing the timing. Some things we may need to move up in the schedule or push off. So the approach can be changed, the timing can be changed, or both. So putting it all together, line 1, good traveling does not leave tracks. So what we can say about this is that in the Tao, Lao Tzu notes we should travel through life like a carriage that leaves no tracks. What does he mean by that? Not leaving tracks means having an unattached approach as you go through life. In actions, this is not being heavy-handed, aggressive, or excessive. It refers to the excellent conduct of cultivators in all of their dealings and actions. It is being skilled at walking the path, doing good deeds to flow with the Tao. And when it comes to good deeds, truly good deeds are done with no expectation of returns. Similar to a vehicle or boat passing without leaving a mark. It implies acting naturally, guided by conscience, without selfishness. So in the workplace, this can manifest as someone who makes a valuable contribution, but does not try to hog the spotlight or claim credit for the good that was done. Among friends, this can be someone who is always there to provide support, not for any kind of reward, but only for the good of the friendship. In demeanor, not having the need to leave a mark or draw attention. So this is humility, done simply from not having to display oneself in an egocentric way. I should note here that there are many good things that can be accomplished without the spotlight, away from the spotlight. Sometimes it can actually be easier to do what needs to be done when there's not a whole lot of attention that can also bring interference. So this means not publicizing, advertising, boasting, or keeping records of something good that is being done. It also means not dwelling on the memory of having done something good in one's mind. Altogether, this is acting in a way that is relaxed, joyful, and appropriate. So the task is completed smoothly. All of this means what you do can be seamless. It may go unnoticed. You do it through aligning with the natural flow of everything, and that leads to the best possible outcomes. You use a light touch, just enough and nothing more. This helps you do the most with the least effort. And before we end this slide, I also want to correct a misinterpretation. There is a misinterpretation that says this line means a good traveler is not intent on arriving. There is nothing in the original that corresponds to this idea. Actual Tao sages and cultivators always have clear notions, the clear intent about where they are going. It is one of the main points about the Tao, is to gain that clarity in one's life direction. Of course, we do not need to be fixated on arriving somewhere at a particular time, but that does not keep us from making progress to move forward so that we can get there. Line 2, it says, good speech does not seek faults. So I think the meaning is clear just from the translation. In the Tao, we speak without casting blame or causing resentment. This is done through speaking with a calm and even tone, reflecting a peaceful mind. It is also done through thinking about the words before expressing them. This helps them be reasonable and appropriate expressions that can be given in a way that will be sincere and authentic. So basically, we speak to clarify and not to criticize others' mistakes. And I want to be clear that this does not mean to avoid talking about mistakes, to gloss over a problem. One can speak the truth. It's just that one can speak the truth without accusations or condemnations. There is no need to be overly critical. There's no need to keep pointing out problems when a simple note will do. To do that, to seek faults in a harsh way, to make accusations, experience shows those will always make things worse, especially when it is done in front of everyone, like okay, who did this? That is really effective, and it can affect morale in a negative way. There is no need to keep repeating when the meaning has been expressed. In contrast to all this, Tao cultivators are much more strict with themselves. They acknowledge their own shortcomings. In fact, they may be the first. They may start with that before talking about common problems. They will recognize their own part in something bad that has happened. So this is following the Tao, not only in what we do in our actions, but also in what we say in our words. Basically, we find that words should convey solutions, hope, and togetherness. Recognizing that negative words create negative karma. They can be more harmful than we realize. So instead of scolding or reprimanding, it is all about guiding. The Tao also teaches that too much talk, too many words will lead only to failure. Sometimes it is better to lead through actions instead. Actions that remedy the situation and not deliver even more words that by themselves don't change anything. In this way, we focus on the positive. We look for solutions rather than to keep pointing out problems. We reduce complaining and we bring out the best from other people. Line 3. Good reckoning does not use counters. This is something that requires more explanations. Counters in this context is about keeping track of scores with people, and we don't need to do that in the Tao. We do know that many people have the habit of mentally tracking everything. On the positive side, they track favors that they have given to other people, as well as favors that they receive from others. So they will say things like, I owe you one, you owe me one, that's a big one I owe you, etc. So favors are equated to debts. And that just also means when they help other people, they are constantly keeping payback in mind. This creates expectations. Look, I helped you before. Now you have to help me. We have all seen this many times. On the negative side, they track offenses and wrongs. That is, they will hold a grudge, not forgetting or forgiving. They'll hold grudges, and sometimes for many, many years. Tao cultivators will look at this and see that, is this really necessary? After all, everything balances out in the long run. There isn't really a need to keep count because karma is ever present and everything comes full circle. Sometimes we see what people call instant karma, and it is obvious that karma is at work. Otherwise, we cannot see it. It is not immediate. It is functioning in the background, and it's going to take its time. But the recognition in the Tao is that although unseen like the Tao, the karmic mechanism is still there and is still functioning just like it does everywhere else. And about themselves, the Tao cultivators understand that water seeks its own level. They, just like everyone else, will end up with what they deserve. This means they're not primarily motivated or driven by the profit motive or just prioritizing personal gain. It comes from the realization that life is fleeting. It is not worth endless calculations. It is not something to grasp. That realization frees them to turn their attention to something much more fulfilling, which is the dedication and contribution of your time, knowledge, and resources. So at the end of it all, there is no need to really overthink all this keeping track, paying back. That is what frees up the mind for the more worthwhile pursuits in life. And this is a concept that is repeated and reinforced in different ways elsewhere in the Tao Te Ching. For instance, Lao Tzu spoke of himself being different from other people because most people were fixated on what they had. They were shrewd, they were calculating. This is most clearly expressed in Tao Te Ching 20. Ordinary people are bright. I alone am muddled. Ordinary people are scrutinizing. I alone am obtuse. So, people want to maximize what they have. They end up oftentimes penny wise but pound foolish. So especially true when it comes to profit and loss. People make decisions based on that, based on profitability or what's in it for them. They scheme and plot based on these expected or perceived benefits. So we do not need to be shrewd to that extent. Compared to them, Tao cultivators like Lao Tzu seem muddled and obtuse. In reality, we can give according to the Tao without worrying about loss. We will still end up with abundance and prosperity and not have to obsess over every little detail. So line 4, good closure needs no bar and yet cannot be opened. So just like good reckoning, good closure requires further explanation. What it says here on the surface level is that in the Tao, we can keep a door closed without using a wooden bar. Now, having seen how Lao Tzu describes life, we know he's not talking about an actual physical door or an actual wooden bar. Both the door and the bar are metaphors for closure in the mind. To understand the metaphor, we can take a look at the way it is expressed elsewhere. In Tao Te Ching 10, we find Lao Tzu says, in the heavenly gates opening and closing, can one hold to the feminine principle? Focusing on line 9 of this chapter, the heavenly gates opening and closing. This is the door that Lao Tzu is really referring to. The metaphorical language is not actually about somebody who is so skillful in closing an actual door that the bar is not needed. It is heavenly gates, which in turn means the functioning of the mind. Holding to the feminine principle in the opening and closing of this door means being reserved, being cautious in what to accept and allow through into the mind. So, putting everything together, keeping the door closed, it doesn't mean to be closed-minded. It is closure about specific aspects of the mind that can be internal or external. Starting with the internal side. The closure internally is the harmonious self-control that closes off temptations. Now, those who master the mind can discipline their thoughts to not wander off in all different directions. This just means it can remain unmoved by temptations, by delusions. And I want to emphasize that, as with all things related to the Tao, it isn't something that you need to force. Those who master the mind see things as negative, such as substance abuse, gambling addiction, violent spectacles, and so on. They can see those things are just not good for them. So, of course, they have no interest in them, and this closes them off like the most secure lock of all, but without using any locks at all. So in this way, we can see good closing or good closure. It just means safeguarding of your true essence. And when you have consistent practice, you can gradually transition to a state of natural alignment with truth and the unveiling of your inner nature. And that is the pathway to enlightenment. So this right here is referenced in Tao Te Ching 52. Close the mouth, shut the doors, live without toil all through life. So line 8, the mouth, it's about not just consumption, but also the words that one speaks through the mouth. So it's connected to this chapter in that sense. Line 9 is directly corresponding to this. Shut the doors, keep it closed. To shut the door is to metaphorically block off temptations, meaning to neutralize their power over you. So just like heavenly gates, the door here is also about the functioning of the mind. So that was internally. What about externally in our dealings with other people? this is about the harmonious relationships that keep people together. The idea is that those who understand this Tao can use it to bring harmony to the group. So this is the wisdom of the Tao applied to oneself plus others. Closure here is about finding or creating a group that is close-knit, like family. A good group, family, or team where you feel like you truly belong. This can be in any setting. It can be at work, it can be at home, with your friends, with a bunch of like-minded individuals. So this group with internal harmony manifested as the external closure, it becomes closer and stronger as a result. In this group, people are free to leave whenever they whenever they wish, whenever they want. But no one does. When we're part of a good team, group, or family, nobody wants to leave. It is as if there is an unbreakable lock preventing us from leaving. But there is no lock at all. As we look around in life, we find that the opposite scenario is much more common. We have all seen people leaving a place when a situation has deteriorated. And this could be at work, it can be a relationship, or perhaps a friendship has become toxic. So people make their exit. A significant sign of things going in the wrong direction is you will see attempts to control the situation by locking things up. And this is where the metaphor of the use of the wooden door comes in. Locking things up in order to control them. But instead of control, the better path is the Tao that directly addresses the source of the issue. So, for instance, within a family, rather than using parental controls to lock the kids out of accessing the internet, it would actually be better to teach them self-discipline so they understand the need to regulate and moderate their own usage. In a similar way, when we look at the workplace, instead of monitoring the employees to ensure their productivity, to watch over them, it would actually be better to build trust with them. It would actually be better to have a common goal. So everyone is included, everybody is valued, and pulling in the same direction. And turning our attention inward, utilizing this teaching for the internal emotional landscape. There, control, suppression, also a bad idea. If it's negative emotions like anger or sadness, instead of suppressing them, it would be better to understand them and direct your attention in order to regain your composure. So in life, if we actually find a place that is operating in accordance with the Tao, a place that provides the harmony that nobody wants to leave behind, then I would say it should be recognized as such. It should be cherished like a treasure, so we can build upon it. If, on the other hand, we don't have this kind of harmony, then that is all the more reason to use the Tao to create good relationships. Good relationships where people choose to stick around of their own free will. This is a deeply embedded, deeply human need to belong to something good. And when we look at this line compared to the next line, line 5, the context we're talking about right now is what parallels the next line in meaning. So the next line about the good knot, again, not a physical knot at all, a metaphorical knot. In the Tao, we can tie a secure knot without using ropes. So ropes and metaphors are just metaphors, and they stand for the strong bond of good relationships. When we have that, the connection that we forge is based on virtues, not status or position. It is built on mutual trust, collaboration, goodwill, and mutual respect. When you have such a knot in place between yourself and other people, it is an emotional tie that binds. Even if you go away for a while, you find that you stay in touch, stay connected. And that is because to you, the group, the team, or family, well, that is your home. You can be out of communication for a while. The connection, the invisible rope is still persisting. And you are still tied by this invisible rope. You know you will reconnect sooner or later. When you do reconnect, it is as if no time has passed. This Tao extends to everyone, not just the masters, the sages, a few individuals. It is using virtues to connect with other people. When you have this, people will seek you out naturally, and people will remember you even after a chance encounter. This is because someone who has mastered the Tao naturally makes a strong impression. So how can we utilize this Tao to create this kind of powerful connection with other people? So with this section, Lao Tzu is teaching us the 3 primary ways. And those are good traveling, and that's taking the unattached and oftentimes seamless actions. Number 2, good speech or good speaking. That is positive words, not seeking faults, but encouraging other people instead. Good reckoning. This is making positive contributions without keeping track of everything, demanding some sort of reward or recognition. when you have these three elements in place, you naturally create a situation where the harmony around you makes people stick around, even though there's no lock to prevent them from leaving. It naturally ties you together with other people who want to be connected to you. That is the key. So we are now getting close to the top of the hour. It is time for us to jump to the summary. In our summary for today, it is all about the five善. And I call them the skills of goodness because every line in the first 5 lines of this chapter starts with good. Good traveling. The good traveler does not leave tracks. That just means we move through life with grace. Minimizing disturbances. This is about taking unattached actions where what you do is done without expectations, with no strings attached. Number 2, good speaker does not seek faults. Here, I want to use this quote. To err is human. To forgive is divine. So this is slightly edited for context and applied here. It just means that you don't want to overlook problems, errors, or mistakes, but to aggressively go after that is the lack of forgiveness. Number 3, good reckoning does not keep count. So remember, keeping count, reckoning, counters, these are all connected to how people are constantly tracking good things and bad things. The favors they owe, favors owed to them, the grudges. It's time to let all of that go. Number 4, good closure requires no locks. Now you see what Laozi is talking about. Harmony keeps a group or family together no matter what. Number 5, and lastly, in this group, good knot requires no ropes. Now you can see the connection between this one and the one before, all about connections and relationships, the bond between people. Strong bond keeps people connected through the test of time. A very similar idea as the previous line, but seen from a different angle. Share the Tao. The easiest way to access Tao resources is to visit my author website, dereklin.com. There, you can click on links and go to the webpage where you will find everything listed, such as Taoism.net, with information about the Tao and also about this meeting. Our Facebook community, where you can ask questions or discuss your thoughts on the Tao with others. Our YouTube channel, where you can watch recordings of all our previous meetings. My Amazon author page, where you can find books and audiobooks for your continuing exploration. You can also go directly with a web address, dereklin.com/links, as you can see. You can use these resources to share the Tao with the people you know who may be interested. When you see the benefits of Tao cultivation in your life, you can share your experience with others through your comments in Facebook or YouTube. If you find my books or audiobooks to be helpful, you can post your reviews on Amazon to help others discover the Tao. This is the path that I am on, so I can say sharing the Tao has benefited me personally in every aspect of life. I would like to invite you to come along with me to share the Tao. Let us travel together on the path in the journey of life. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.